So I think I mentioned at one point that I start new profiles on occasion using the same email account. In other words, what I do is I don't have multiple accounts, as these websites don't like, but it starts me out at a low rating again, the beginner's rating, and I end up playing some people occasionally who are very highly rated with a low rating. And these individuals sometimes do not observe proper chess etiquette in terms of playing openings that are standard openings. In other words, they don't see the lower rating as a challenge to them, and they think just because they're rated so many points higher that they're just going to blow you out of the water with whatever they play. And they don't really understand who they're playing, and they're not playing moves, they're playing ratings. So in this particular case, we're investigating something called the Goldsmith defense, because this was played against me by a master, a blitz rated master, which means his over the board rating is probably much higher. Now, the fact is that this individual played this, and I'd never heard of this defense, this Goldsmith defense. But one would think, well, this is kind of a joke, right? I mean, when you see this defense, it's kind of, you expect, well, this guy is just going to try to do something extremely insulting and win anyway. So the first thing that you do when you face an unusual defense that doesn't seem to make much sense is be very patient. In other words, you don't want to be disappointed at the fact that you haven't blown this completely out of the water. The fact is that a lot of first moves in chess can be pretty bad, and yet you're not going to beat them right away. It's going to take quite a while. So if you just adhere to simple principles, you should be able to overcome this opening, keeping in mind the fact that since he's played h5 as black on the first move, he has the capability of pushing that pawn and completely destroying your king side if you castle there. So I would recommend don't castle on the king side if he's going to make a move like that, because obviously he's not planning on castling on the king side. He has to put his king somewhere, right? So he's going to do one of two things. Either number one, he's going to try to create some sort of consolidated position on the king side via some sort of fianchetto to support the h5 move, or he's going to leave his king in the middle or castle queen side. So if he leaves his king in the middle, you are obligated to keep it in the middle. And even if it costs you pawns, pieces, whatever, you want to keep that in the middle as long as you have a sound attack going. So without further ado, we're going to investigate how we beat this master using the insulting Goldsmith defense. So let's turn on our engine. He moves h5. There it is. Already, Stockfish says, like he does in the England Gambit and various other things, he's unsounding chess us back. He suggests just simply playing d4 leaves us close to 3/4 of a pawn up. So this is what we play. And it suggests c5 in the second move. He's playing d6, which can turn into some sort of kind of protected modified Pirtz. Now e5, which is somewhat sound, actually. What's wrong with that move? Well, it wants us simply to protect it with c3, which we don't do. So I like to develop pieces wherever possible. Okay, we're still close to 1-up. Now bishop to g5 would be an annoying rather pin, but we don't play that. We're just simply developing. Now we have our first decision. What are we going to do? Well, I cover it. Okay. So what does Stockfish say you're supposed to do? He says take. Take and then develop. So I'm not doing that. I'm allowing him to relieve pressure, which still gives us an advantage. Now he should move knight to c6, which he does. And we simply move back. Now the way I look at it is he has a weakened king side. We have 3 pieces developed. He has 1. So what's he going to do? Knight to e5, move the same piece again. g6 was one of the computer's top moves, and that's what he moved. So it looks like he's going to try to fianchetto on the king side and castle there. And we thwart that idea by attacking on the dark squares. And he moves bishop to g7. So these are all the number 1 computer moves here. And now, of course, the most dangerous attack he has to face is f4, f5. And that is an attack that we should probably get into as soon as we possibly can. So I prepare that by castling queenside first. And it says that now queen to f6 is in order, which is an interesting kind of move because knight to d5 ends up in mate 1, so you can't move there. So he's going to prepare to castle queenside if he does such a thing. So this is a very critical position for black right now, because he's got to figure out where to put his king, because we have rooks that are going to come to the middle of the board, and we're going to play f4, f5. And that sets the bishop up for a simple f4, f5. And the fact is that yeah, he can try to do some silly things like capture my knight and then capture my a-pawn, but he leaves himself so weak on the dark squares on the king side that that's just a failed policy. So I move knight to d5 here. Now knight to d5, I like putting things on e5 and d5. You know, this is like the old Paul Keres thing. The computer thinks that that's not as good as some other moves. Like, the computer is a great defender. So the computer says he can castle kingside and go get away with it with near equality. So once again, we're not going to be disappointed at the fact that we're not blowing this completely out of the water at this point. So it says we should play bishop to e2, probably followed by f4. However, I'm just going to let him take that bishop because, you know, as wonderful as that bishop looks and as nice as it is, in a sense, it's a bad bishop where it sits. Okay, so now it says he should play bishop takes d5 first, which he doesn't do. Instead, he captures. I capture back. And now it says absolutely he's got to play that or castle. And here's where the blunder occurs. He's going to play c6, and the game's going to end soon. Okay. Now I have a variety of things I can do here, like taking that bishop off the board by playing bishop to d4, because obviously if he captures it, when I recapture with the queen, his rook's under attack in the corner. So, interestingly enough, I just retreated my knight, as I recall. And I have a solid position nevertheless. You know, he's got the two bishops. He looks like he can castle nicely, or move queen d5 or something like that. We have a solid advantage, however, and we're being patient. Stockfish 8, the analysis provided by the engine, says that he should be castling here. Instead, he protects his d-pawn. An interesting idea. So that is a strange thing in my mind, because, you know, I wasn't going to take his d-pawn no matter what. To me, that is just nonsense. So here's where the game ends. f5 gets played, and he's lost. So, you know, maybe the computer can defend this, probably can, but in my opinion, this is just too big an advantage at this point. So, once this position gets opened up in the middle, taking is a disastrous mistake with the pawn, and the recapture happens back. It says he's got to just sack, play bishop takes a2. Play bishop to c8. See, where he puts it there is the worst of all possible worlds, because it removes the space for his king to go to. So now a baby can play this position, lining that up. Obviously, interposing anything ends up with f6. And moving his queen there results in a skewer and a resignation. So this is where the game ended, and it's, you know, kind of surprising that somebody rated what they did fell apart that fast with a move like bishop to f8. But as long as you're just patient, I thought it would be worth showing the Goldsmith defense, because it's not the worst defense in the world. As we know, in unsound chess, there are worse defenses.